and welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Karen Stevens, and I am your host tonight. Tonight, we are calling our show, He is a Triple Threat. Before we get started, let me introduce our panel. Miss Iris Acker, actress and our producer here at Spotlight on the Arts. Bill Hirschman, theater critic and founder of FloridaTheaterOnStage.com. And Nicholas Richburg, who is sitting in for Michael McKeever today, who is an actor and the managing director of Zoetic Stage. Tonight, we are turning the tables on one of our panelists. Let me introduce our guest, Mr. Michael McKeever, who is truly a triple threat. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. It's weird being in this seat.
I know, right? How does it feel?
It feels different. I don't know what it's like. It's strange. I don't know who to look at.
So, we are calling you a triple threat. The Miami Herald did a great spread on you about your talents in the theater world. You're an actor, playwright, a set designer, but you are some other things as well. You're a graphic artist. What else?
That's pretty much about it.
That's it?
Great martini maker.
A great
I'm the best martini maker.
Veterinarian.
No, that I gave up. So.
Now, you didn't start out doing these things professionally, did you?
No, actually, I went to school for advertising design. That's what I got my degree in, and I spent my 20s working in film and television as an art director, art directing TV commercials. I worked on everything from public service announcements to selling everything from soft drinks to furniture. A fun little side note, people don't know this, City Furniture, who was a terrific client and just really, they ended up being great friends. I worked with them for close to 20 years. I designed the logo, the furniture on that logo is actually my handwriting.
There it is.
So there you go.
Meadow Expressway.
There you
I see
are.
it all the time. It was Waterbed City, by the way.
Yes, it started off, I started working with them as Waterbed City.
Wow, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they were great. They are great people. It's a great company, and there was a really great group of people to work with.
Wow.
Well, there's something that the public doesn't
There
know
you
about
go.
you. I mean, really, among
Playwright
other
Designs
things,
furniture logo.
when you found the time with everything else you do, I don't know.
So how did you get
Yeah.
into the theatrical land?
Well, what started happening is when I was working for a terrific company called Venture Productions in Miami, they ran out of, they started losing their writers, and so the staff there asked me, as I was at that point creative director, if I would start writing the commercials, and I found I really liked it. And I had a knack for dialogue. Of course, they were only 30 seconds long, so I said, you know what, I think I could do this. So around the age of 30, I sat down without any training and wrote my very first play. And I had friends come over who were not actors, but just friends, and we'd sit around and we'd read the play. And I go, okay, let me twerk this, let me work this, let me fix that. And after about a year, I sent it out to every theater in South Florida, and Rafael Diacha at New Theater got a hold of it and said, I'd like to do this play. And I just happened to luck out that...
What was the first play?
It was called That Sound You Hear. It was about a marriage dissolving on the eve of Hurricane Andrew. And the storm ended up being a metaphor for that relationship.
I'd say everything is based on things in your life, I think.
Yeah, actually,
really are.
I had a relationship that had just ended, and I actually went through Hurricane Andrew, and so I kind of married those together in that play.
And then how did the performing get started?
Well, I was an actor in my early 20s, and I really liked it. And I got involved with a terrific theater group called Theater with Your Coffee, again, in my early 30s. And the primary goal of this group, Mary Beth Graham, Bethany Bohal, Wayne Leggett, really terrific people involved, was just simply to do readings of new work and put it in front of an audience in a coffee house setting. And we saw what plays worked and what plays didn't work. And because we had no staff, it was just us. So we ended up being not only the writers, but the actors as well. And I really liked it. I found I really enjoyed the communion of working with other people on stage. And so I ended up being in that first play, That Sound You Hear, and that led to the next one,
Wow, fairy tale. Really? So you've been pretty prolific as a playwright. I mean, how do you And writing seems to come very easily to you, the process. Can you expound on what your process is?
Absolutely. I think that it comes from my background in advertising design. Straight through my 20s, I lived on deadline. When you're working in television, when you're working in film, you've got a deadline and it's about 20 seconds away. So you really learn how to control your time and know that if you have a deadline to hit, you have to hit it. Because you're talking about, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you have to do it. Well, when I started writing my first play, I took time, but then I realized I really want to get this stuff out. I don't want to be someone who writes plays at night and never does anything with it. So I gave myself deadlines, and I knew if I gave those deadlines, I would have to hit it. And so that's why I think I write so fast. At any given time, I have about 3 ideas in the back of my head that I'm thinking about the next play.
The next play and the next play.
Exactly.
And the next play.
So when I start writing, I'm thinking about that. They kind of percolate in there for about,
That's
6
wonderful.
months to a year. And then when I start writing, I'm very, very quick. I write the first draft within probably about a month, with the understanding that it's certainly not going to be perfect. And then I show it to my partner, Stuart Meltzer, who's a wonderful director and dramaturg, and he tells me, oh, you need to look at this, you need to look at that, and then I go back and I fix that up, and then I have friends over, I have some wonderful actor friends, and we'll sit and we'll read it and we'll see what's working, and that's how the process happens. Over the past, whatever it's been, about 15 years now, I've written about 22 plays, and they've all had pretty much that same process.
Really prolific.
When do you stop writing? When do you know, or do you ever know, this play is finished, it's perfect, I should just quit while I'm ahead and let it go on into the world?
It's a great question. Usually I have a really solid idea of where the play is going. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but I have a general idea of where it's going to go. And I never write linear. I never write beginning, middle, and end. I know of the spine of the play, and I want to keep it on that spine, but I'll write the ending, and then the middle, and then that first scene, and I'll work it out. Daniel's Husband, which is a play I wrote the very last scene, the very first day that I sat down to write it, and then kind of worked backwards in writing it, and that scene stayed untouched.
And what's so wonderful about Daniel's Husband, as with most of your shows, by the way, it's being done elsewhere now.
Yes.
And it started in a play reading. Let's give Lynn University and that workshop
Absolutely.
credit, really.
Jan McCart's play reading series at Lynn University is a great incubator for new work. I know there's been 3 shows that have started there that have gone out. Daniel's Husband, again, when they asked me if I had a new play that I was interested in writing, I said, yes, there's this idea I have called Daniel's Husband. And they said, fine, let's do it. And I knew that I had to have it done for Lynn University. And that went up in about January, and I started writing at the end of November. So I knew I had to hit that deadline.
Yeah.
And then right after that, it got picked up at Island City Stage, and it's got 5 productions lined up between now and 2017.
You should not
For the people that aren't familiar, you should tell people a little bit about what the spine of the play is.
Daniel's Husband.
Yeah.
Daniel's Husband is about a gay couple who are very happy and very content in their life, with one glaring situation, and that is Mitchell does not believe in gay marriage, while his husband Daniel does. And then a major medical situation occurs, and it turns their lives and that relationship upside down, with really heartbreaking consequences. So it's taking a stand on the simple human right of that everyone should be able to get married.
Had that been percolating in your head all this time?
Oh, sure. That was one that I think the reason I wrote it so quickly and it came so smoothly is I've been thinking about that play for well over a year.
It got unanimously rave reviews, and it's also been called your most personal play, probably.
Yes.
Do you feel that all the plays come from a personal place, or did you feel in this case, as a playwright, a responsibility to contribute to the national discourse about gay marriage, or what was the genesis?
No, as a writer, I like to enlighten, I like to entertain. But what you said about being personal is dead on. I find that my best plays, my strongest plays, are the ones that come from a place within me that I feel very strongly about. That's something that really touches me. Someone told me a long time ago, and I've always held on to it, is that the truth always plays really well on stage. Whenever you start dealing with things that you really don't know or you really don't understand, it always kind of falls apart.
Do you know that immediately, as a budding playwright, you immediately were an advanced playwright, or however you want to call it.
Well, and again, it came from almost a place of naivete. Even when I've written about Tsarist Russia and Nazi Germany, but when in writing a play like The Garden of Handel List,
My favorite. I just
thank you
love that
so
play.
much. You wrote me. This goes back to 1998. You wrote me a letter saying how much you loved it. To this day, I have that letter.
Oh my!
I
so
also
flattered.
love that play.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But
Tell
again,
me, how did that affect your life? Where from your life did this come about Nazi Germany?
well, there you go. It's about a Christian family living in Nuremberg, Germany in 1938 as the world is falling apart around them, but they're not being impacted. In fact, many of their good friends are in fact members of the Nazi Party, the National Socialist Party. And so the question that I asked with the play was, what do you do when the world is falling apart around you, but it's not really impacting you? Do you take a stand? Do you not take a stand? You just sit back and hope for everything to change. And what you find is during the course of the 2 hours of this play is that certain members of this family are taking huge steps to work against the Nazis, and in fact killing Nazis quietly while no one is looking. And again, now I know at the time I knew very little about Nazi Germany, but I knew a lot about family. I knew about family dynamics, and I knew the relationships between siblings and mothers and children and all that. And I incorporated that into the storytelling. It was all about family relationships and the horror of the Nazi world and Nuremberg in 1939 became the dressing in which those family relationships happened within.
Well, you often, not often, but have been known to appear in the plays that you've written. You guys were in Stuff Together, if I remember right.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
I remember that far back.
Oh, wonderful
and
play,
you
wonderful.
you were in the wonderful murder play.
The Clark Gable
Gable
Clark
Slept
Gable
Here.
Slept Here.
Yes.
Sort of murder play.
Kind of.
But you were in both of those. Is
Yes.
it difficult to appear in a work that you wrote and that you're not directing? In other words, to give up some of the. How do you balance those two?
Oh, I learned very early on to give up that power. I feel strongly about the collaborative power of theater and how that really produces the best work. When you work with really wonderful actors, and I've had both Nicholas and Karen, I've had the honor of having both of them in my shows. And
Three times.
Three times, exactly.
Wow.
Nick's tied for the most. Karen's close with two. So, but I've had the great pleasure of working with really great directors who understand my work. And so when I'm an actor in one of my shows, and a director is saying, "Yeah, that's not really working," I take heed. I listen to what they're saying because they're on that side of the rehearsal room. They're looking at what's happening on stage. And if you trust that director and you listen, I've never, as an actor, as a playwright, I've never felt that something is so ridiculous, so outrageous that it can't be tried. Years ago, I was acting in a show, a world premiere, and I had a playwright clutch the script to his bosom and say, "How dare you," and storm out of the room because
Sounds like Neil Simon.
the director had made some suggestion that he just hated it, and I said to myself, note to self, never do that.
Well, that's like your children, those words, you know.
Sure.
And how dare they, you know, about,
I learned 10 years ago, kill your babies, kill them. If they're getting in the way of making the play good, I have no problem. When we did Clark Gable Slept Here, Stuart Meltzer, my partner, was directing it. And I had this killer monologue as an actor. I gave myself this wonderful little monologue about, whatever it was. And about the third time through, I could see Stuart just going like this throughout the whole day. And I did it, over the course of that first week. And then finally I said, I really need to kill this, don't I? And he went, he said, I knew you were going to figure it out eventually. And so I did. And the longer you do it, the longer you work as an actor and certainly as a playwright, you learn that it gets easier to kill. At least for me, it does.
There are a lot of technical things involved in crafting a play. So being a self-starting playwright, how did that come to you?
And you actually teach playwriting now.
Yes, I do.
Right?
I
was gonna ask
teach.
about that.
I
That's
teach
good.
sort of a master class at New World School of the Arts, where there are amazing students. I'm so proud of the kids that come out of that school, the college program. They're really, really wonderful writers. I think it came out of naivete, and I grew up watching these amazing movies of the 70s. There were so many great movies that came out in the mid to early 70s. And I'm also a big fan of those early 30s and 40s black and whites. So I think that I just learned storytelling from watching these classic movies that are so well made, so well created. And that became my guide. I really didn't understand what I was doing till the third play that I ever wrote, and that was The Garden of Hannah List, and that was the play that made me say, okay, I'm a playwright. I'll never forget, I have to give a shout out to Lou Terrell at Florida Stage, who officially made me a playwright with 6 words, and that is, we'd like to do your play. And that was the play that really made me a professional playwright.
And you can stay in Florida. You have no, I mean, it doesn't matter where you live. The plays are being done all over the world anyway.
I'm very lucky. My agent is in New York, and every so often people will say to me, why are you in South Florida? Well, it's a very simple reason. My family is in South Florida. Everyone I love is in South Florida. I love the weather. I love the theater community. And I have this great, warm, safe place to create the work that I do, and then I give it to my agent, and she sends it out. And again, if I had moved to New York, I could be waiting tables right now. Who knows? But now I'm blessed because I have work being produced not only around America, but in Germany, Austria, Poland, Russia, Sweden, Switzerland. I'm very, very lucky. We were just in the Czech Republic, and I just found out there's a production of Sweet Surrender, one of my plays, in the Czech Republic.
And what language do they do it in?
Czech.
Oh, you've never been there to see them
No,
done?
one of these days I will. One of these
my.
days I will definitely go out and see it. We were, like I said, we were in the same trip that we were in Czech Republic. We were in Vienna, and I actually went to one of the theaters that had a production of one of my work there.
But they threw him out because he objected to one of the line readings in German. But
I would love to have that option. I'd be so in awe just to hear one of my work in another language. I'd be in heaven.
And more so than just live in South Florida and write in South Florida, you've really contributed to the South Florida theater community in really profound ways. I mean, you've aside from your work as an actor and playwright, you've co-produced the Carbonell Awards a number of years. You've co-founded a theater company that has become very successful.
What would that theater company be?
I believe it's Zoetic Stage.
Well, yes, it is. One of the things that I'm most proud of too is putting together that theater company. Zoetic Stage is not only a place that I call home, but it's a place that we really reach out to new work, and we love creating work that starts here and goes out around the world.
Let's talk a little bit more about Zoetic Stage. It's part of the Arts Center.
Yes, we're.
No, go
okay.
ahead. I want you to
We're
tell
very
us
lucky
about
to be housed in the Carnival Studio Theater at the Arts, which is this beautiful little black box smack in the middle of the Arts Center in downtown Miami. And it's funny because it's right now. This sounds so terrible, but it's the only place where I actually design sets. Just because I used to design a lot more sets for a lot more theaters, and I really like doing it. It's just, you know, you hit a certain age, you hit 50, and it's like, this is just way too much work. So about once a year now, I'll design a set, and it's a lot of fun, and then it takes me about a month to recoup from because not only do you design the sets, but you're, you know, with Zoetic, I'm the one who's painting it as well.
And putting
I
it
was going
together.
to say, you know, all these things that we're mentioning that you do, you're just like the Energizer Bunny. I could just see you, you know, darting from here to there. Do you have any downtime?
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
I'm very blessed. Stuart and I have a terrific circle of friends that are just amazing and a lot of fun, and we keep each other entertained. And I have my entire family is down here, and they are extremely important to me. I love them very much, and between those two major elements of my life and my career, knock on wood, I'm a very lucky fella.
And you do travel.
how do you juggle
Yes.
all those things? Particularly,
Yeah.
I mean, I believe there have been times where you have been doing all of these things literally in the same week or two period.
Right now would be one of those times.
So how do you are you good at time management, or are you just ADHD, or?
Yeah, I think it's a little of all those things. I think it's a matter of again, knowing that you have deadlines, knowing that you have to address these certain things. Recently, I was just doing a show up at Palm Beach Drama Works, which is an hour away from where I live. So that was incorporating 2 hours in drive time into the day, knowing that I had, you know, marketing work to do with Zoetic Stage and developing the new set for the next upcoming show, while at the same time acting at Palm Beach Drama Works. And sure, you get tired every so often, but It's what you do. It could be worse. I mean, I'm working. I'm doing a job I love, working with people I love.
He loves it, and that's the key. The other thing is, I've said it before, we heard it before, if you want to get something done, you ask a busy person. And it's amazing how a busy person always has time.
Yeah.
And you're the proof of it. How many Carbonell Awards do you have lined up? Not only for acting, for
Playwriting.
Don't act like you don't know. How many is it?
I have.
You're turning red.
Come on.
I have 7. I have 7.
Only 7.
Only 7.
But it's a lucky number.
But I consider that a great honor. I'm very, very honored to have received those awards. And I have a couple of silver palms as well. So that.
Did you get one for set yet? Set design?
I've been nominated twice for a set design, but I haven't won, and I've got a silver palm for set. So
There is a place on his mantle, the one that's sagging. There is just the space, saving one for him.
True.
So what are some of the ideas you have for future projects as far as plays?
I got to tell you, it's the plays that I have coming up are very. There's a number of different things that I'm juggling right now. I love the kind of madness that's happening politically in this country right now, and I want to address that in a play. There are things that are happening. I find that just the social landscape of America is changing as well, and I've got a play that addresses where we'll be in a couple of years as well. And then I've always been fascinated with people like Peggy Guggenheim, who is this wonderful eccentric who just collected artwork and completely defied her multi-millionaire family. And so these are just a couple of the ideas that I've got that I'm juggling right now. I don't know which one I'm going to be tackling next, but.
My play is what you'll be tackling next.
Well, I got to tell you, that's the truth too. When I'm working on a play, and Karen is right in saying that, because I think of actors again. When you have a lot of great actors for friends, you think of them when you're writing the play, and what happens is those characters then become very consistent from beginning to end because you have a very consistent voice. When I'm writing a character that I think Karen Stevens would be perfect for, I write it with her voice in my head. I write it with something that would fit her really well. Therefore, that character, whether Karen ends up playing it or not, is very consistent.
I'm always wondering about people trying to make their stand here in South Florida. And there are people who come, there are people who go. What is it that we need to do here in South Florida to keep talent down here, both playwriting talent, acting talent, design talent, directing talent? What is needed down here to keep people?
Well, I think we're kind of doing it. What's happening, especially in the past couple of years, that new work is suddenly being embraced and being produced. I mean, that's a great way to keep any certain talent down, is to do their work. Because if it's not being done here, it'll be done somewhere else. The general consensus was if you wanted to have work done, you went to New York. If you wanted to be an actor, you went to New York. But what's happened, especially in New York, it just costs so much money to put work up for a number of different reasons. It's very expensive. And there used to be, back in the 20s, there were 106 to 110 new plays, not musicals, new plays on Broadway a season. It just costs too much money to do that now. So you're looking at 6 to 9 to 12 new plays on Broadway a season now. It's very expensive. So the way that I think is to keep talent in South Florida is to do what we're doing. Use young actors. Zoetic, Outre, Slowburn. These are companies that embrace young people that are coming right out of schools like New World School of the Arts and putting them on stage and giving them that opportunity. Wonderful places like Micro
Theater, yeah.
Is every new package of work they do, of these short plays, are filled with students' work. Really great, cutting edge, new voices that no one's ever heard before, and it's really good stuff.
And their micro theater is describe it. It's downtown Miami, and it takes place in. What size are the boxes?
Yeah,
they're shipping containers.
Shipping containers.
Yeah, and what they do is there's a series of about 8 to 10 of these shipping containers, and in each of them there's a 10 to 15 minute play and then you leave one container and go to another one, and you'd be amazed at how much talent are in those little boxes. It's really a great night of theater.
Yeah. So what do you think the hope and the promise of South Florida theater is before we?
I'm proud to look at this new wave of young talent that's coming out there. I think what's happening, it used to be, when I first got involved in theater in this market 15, 20 years ago, it was we just waited for things to come to us. And now what's happening is that there's so much new work, so much new talent, new people, new voices that are being developed and grown in this region that are going out into the world. I think it's a very exciting time.
As an actor, I can say that there is not enough work to support an actor down here, so it's a matter of getting a survival job, as we called it in New York. I know I had so many survival jobs, and I use every one of them today, and in other ways. But yeah, it's tough to support yourself down here. That's it, and do what you love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for being in the hot seat
My
today.
pleasure. You guys made it easy. I like it. I
Yeah.
have to do this again.
We learned a lot of things about you that we didn't know. That's awesome. And thank you for being with us today here on Spotlight on the Arts. We'd like to thank our panel, Nicholas Richburg, Iris Acker, William Hirschman, and our special guest and usual panelists, Michael McKeever, playwright, set designer, actor, triple threat. Join us here next week. And if you'd like to know what's going on in the South Florida Theater, please visit floridatheateronstage.com. And by all means, please go to the theater.